Okay, so Dr. Bockting will tell us about her journey into academia. Take it away.
I'm gonna fuss with the lights and the shades. I like the snow, but I also want you to be able to see what's on the screen. Beautiful. Good. We'll see. All right, so the title of my part of this talk is How Did I Become a Mathematician? And as Dr. Lizzie pointed out, there's a bunch of different ways you could read that. Like, you know, the sort of neutral, like, how did I become a mathematician? But there's also the like, how in the world did I become a mathematician? And so I think that's like a nice way to start this. So I didn't always know that I wanted to be a mathematician. In fact, growing up, I didn't really know what a mathematician was, or what they did, or if that was a thing. There's a picture of a cornfield here because I grew up literally in the middle of a cornfield. I am from Southern Indiana. I grew up on a family farm, like literally surrounded by cornfields. And growing up in that setting, my notion of what the world was and what was out there was fairly limited. I just didn't have a lot of exposure. And so when I was growing up, I thought that when you went to college, you majored in a job. Like, because I knew people majored in engineering or they majored in nursing or they were going to become a doctor. And so I didn't know that you could major in an academic subject. Like this is like me revealing like how little I knew about like what college was. And so I had a pretty limited sense of like what was out there. When I was in high school, my guidance counselor was very alarmed when she learned that I didn't know what I wanted to be when I grew up. Like, because everybody else knew. And I thought it was silly that everybody else knew because at 15, 16, you don't know what the world is. You don't know what's out there. You say you want to be a doctor, but it's because you know it's a good paying job that brings respect, right? You don't actually know what it's like to be a doctor or to be a teacher or what have you. So she sent me on a bunch of job shadowing events. And so I learned things like I did not want to become an industrial chemist. It was like a pretty boring day. In fact, I did job shadow a math professor. So I don't think that's how I ended up here, but it's sort of a funny little bit. But I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. And like senior year of high school, and I just can't figure out what I'm going to do. And my calculus instructor's like, why don't you just major in math? And this was the first time I knew that that was a thing you could do. So this is to say that like I went in and to college, like not really knowing what to expect or like what the pathway even looked like or what was possible. And so like having grown up in that setting where I didn't know a lot of people who'd gone to college, like other than like my teachers, I was really nervous. And so even when I was in college and things were going really well, I wasn't convinced that I belonged there, that I deserved to be there. I wasn't convinced that I had what it took to become a mathematician. And so the big thing here is that like I had a lot of wonderful people in my corner who supported and encouraged me along the way. So like my math professors were like, you're pretty good at this. You could go to grad school. But no. Grad school is for somebody like much less smarter and fancier than me. Like, remember, I'm from a cornfield. Like, that's not what people from my part of the world do, right? It's for somebody else. And so they sort of, you know, kept encouraging, like relentlessly sometimes. So if I have now become that person in your life who like relentlessly encourages you, like I'm just paying it forward. And so eventually I was like, okay, maybe I could do this, but I still wasn't totally sure, right? Oh yeah, and I went to the University of Evansville, 6 hours south of here, so point of reference. And so something that helped me sort of gain confidence and just believe that like, you know, there's a possibility that I might actually be good at this or maybe you could do this was I did a bunch of summer programs. So a friend of mine, one summer did this thing called an REU. I'd never heard of it before, but he came back and just reported really positively on his experience. And so the next summer I was like, okay, great. I'm gonna do an REU. So I know many of you from the math department are applying for these summer. This is something you've never heard of before. It's a research experience for undergraduates. And so the idea is that you go to, I mean, you apply, are accepted, et cetera. But you spend 8 weeks, 10 weeks at another university, working with a cohort of students doing research. And so for me, this is my first real experience, leaving like my small, safe, University of Evansville math community and sort of going out into the world and sort of, um, just being in a research environment, and being with people who, are like maybe peers in a different way than they were at my home institution. So I went to a pretty small school, 2,500 students. There weren't a lot of math students at all, and certainly not many that were grad school bound. And so I didn't have a lot of people to compare myself to. And so I spent the summer at the University of Akron, working under the mentorship of Dr. Jeffrey Riedel. And so here's my research group hanging out at a NASA research center near Cleveland, where a bunch of Akron grads work there. And so they like let us come in and play with things and like think it was very cool. Highly recommend. Field trips are great. And so like my research mentor was somebody who, in my mind, he didn't really have a vested interest in me, like me doing well or failing going forward. Like, I mean, he did care. I don't mean that, but he was somebody who it felt like was external and said, no, you're really good at this. You're very hardworking. You should consider this. And so he also encouraged me to go to grad school, wrote me a letter, and actually ended up going to school where he went to school, in part because of his encouragement. I also did a summer program after undergrad at the University of Nebraska. So this was called Immerse, Intensive Mathematics, a Mentoring, Education, and Research Summer Experience. And so the idea is that students from small liberal arts colleges like myself, who are going into PhD programs, like it's a pretty big cultural shift, right? Going from like a teeny tiny little place to a very large research institution. So people like me spent the summer doing that at the University of Nebraska, interacting with their graduate students and their faculty. So it's sort of a bit of a bridge, like helping transition. And so that was another place where I felt really well supported, and really sort of safe. And I was like, oh, maybe like I can do this. Like I am now working with 16 other people who are also going to PhD programs, like, and they seem like me. So yeah, I started to believe that like maybe, possibly, I might actually be good at this. All right. So grad school was tough. But again, okay, this is the theme. I've had a lot of wonderful people who supported me and encouraged me along the way. So I went to the University of Wisconsin in Madison. I did research with a mathematician named Paul Twilliger, whose research is sort of the intersection of sort of algebra and graph theory. And I joined a very large mathematical family. So like here you see me and three of my mathematical siblings at well, not at a conference, but in China where we were attending a conference. Over here, J.O. and George dancing in front of a lake in the Netherlands where we were also attending a conference. And so, right, I only have 15 minutes today. So grad school is like a 2-hour long discussion about what goes on there. But, main things are, it's like challenging, right? It's challenging to get in. It's challenging to make it through your courses and your qualifying exams. And so if you are headed in that path, like be prepared. It's going to be hard, but you're capable of hard things, right? So when I say, oh, it's going to be hard, I don't mean that to discourage you. Just like be prepared, and then find your people. Like find the people that are going to support you as you go through. All right. So 2014, I graduated. Much celebration. That's my son Oliver, for those of you who've met him. So I had a kid during that school. And then wait. I'm like, well, I graduated. Now I need to get a job. Right. So my first job as a professor was at Oberlin College. It's a very small liberal arts college near Cleveland. It's actually fairly close to where I did my REU, like many years before, just by coincidence. Right, so being in a new place with like, and a very new job with a very small child, like it's hard, right? And like at this place, like, I again had lots of wonderful people who support. So I had people who quickly became my community, people who became my sort of teaching and professional mentors who helped me just navigate like how do I profess? Like how do I do this? So I was there for a whopping 11 months before I came here. It's a very quick turnaround. So I got to Oberlin probably 2 weeks into classes. I had the chair of the department come watch me teach. That way she could write a letter about me teaching. And then I started applying for jobs. And obviously, like DePaul, in their infinite wisdom, decided to hire me. And so I came here. Right? And so I've been here for almost a decade, which feels like a really long time. Like I don't know how a decade has passed, but that little baby we saw a couple slides back is now like this tall, so I guess it's happened. And so, you know, one thing might ask, like, well, how, like now that I'm here, what do I do with my time? Some of you who've been to my office, and I think like looking around, like half of you have been in my office before. You've seen this on my door. It's a little PhD comics, how do professors spend their time? And there's the like how they actually spend their time, how the department wants them to spend their time, and how they would like to spend their time. And I mean, I think none of these are right, because like I spend 98% of my time grading. Those of you who have been in 215 and 216 with me know that like, you get lots of feedback and hopefully helps you learn and grow and get better. I spend a lot of my time. Right, a lot of my time is spent teaching, but some of my time is just spent sort of thinking about math that I find interesting and doing research.
There's something,
Huh?
picture.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this was from like maybe my first year here. I'm so useful in this photo. Like the flyer, that headshot is from when I started at DePaul a decade ago. So, you know, spending time just sort of thinking about math maybe on my own or doing research with students. So here, this is a photo of, it's 2 years ago. Dr. Barnard and I ran a summer research program for students. I mentioned REUs as a thing and how big of a deal it was for me. And so it was really wonderful to sort of run one of my own, our own, for a big group of students. And so is anybody in this photo in this room? Any students? Probably 2 years ago, so they're gonna graduate. Well, Eric's not here.
I know.
Oh,
Yeah.
he was tutoring until. So working with students on research is something that I really enjoy, right? It's like I get to both do fun and interesting new math, but also like help guide people in that journey, which I really enjoy. Sometimes I get to go to exciting places to do math with other people. So we here have another photo with Dr. Barnard in it. Yeah, you are right.
Oh, yeah.
So this is from a workshop at the Banff International Research Station several years ago. We sort of went and collaborated with other people on a variety of different projects. And so it's sort of a nice way to get to know more people and have more people to do math with. And then this is a picture from when I went on sabbatical a few years ago. That is a cave castle in Slovenia. It's like built into like a mountain sort of, and there's a cave behind it. So the facade is castle, and then you go inside and you're actually in the cave. Cool. It's very cool. So I spent a couple of weeks there collaborating with people, like how I got started on bee colorings, which was what we worked on at RU. So this is a nice connection. And so this is how I spend my time. I talk to people all the time. Like I like doing math with people more than I like doing math by myself. So I like to collaborate with people. So you see like one photo of me by myself doing math, and then like sort of 3 photos of me doing math. All right. So I have -1 minute. So we're gonna wrap up. So what's the takeaway? Things weren't always easy. And I didn't always know what I wanted to do or what I should do. And part of me like putting this out to you and telling you all is like, you know, 20 years ago, I was a student like many of you, right? So if you feel like things are hard, that's okay. You're capable of doing hard things. If you're not sure what to do, also okay. You've got a lot of people in your corner to support you, right? And I think, right, the big theme from this talk is like, I would not be where I am without the constant encouragement from my friends, my professors, my mentors, all these people. Our community is incredibly important, and finding the people on your journey that are going to support you, like the most important thing. Right? So your journey undoubtedly will look different than mine, but like find your people. All right, and then the other sort of final takeaways, right? You all have lots and lots and lots of doors ahead of you. You might think that some of those doors aren't open to you. Like I didn't think like grad school was a door that was open for me, and look, clearly it was. And among those doors that are in front of you, there are probably some you've never even thought of or even considered. And so what I'd like to encourage you to do is to not close doors for yourself preemptively, like just because you think you're not enough or it's not for you. Right, you're all capable of hard things. Right, so don't say like, oh, it's not for me. Like I'm not enough. Because you're enough. Okay, that is my last slide. I've stolen 3 minutes from Ruben, which is maybe not great because I think Ruben has a lot more slides than I do. So that's it, and I will hand it over to Ruben.
Let me introduce you. Okay. So we have Ruben Parra, who is a professor of chemistry and biochemistry and the interim chair of the chemistry department. Has had psychology. Oh, I'm so sorry. Has had a number of leadership positions, 66 publications, thousands of citations. His work is in computational chemistry and is actively engaged in mentoring students, especially through that very tough first year of chemistry, a general chemistry classes that I know is a journey for many of you here too. So
Thank
I
you.
welcome you to share your journey.
Absolutely. Thank you. Okay. Let's move on. So how do do this? How do I put this slides?
You just forget to say.
How do I get these slides back to me? Oh, from here, maybe escape.
So, oh, you gotta go back to the content PC.
Right.
Okay, sharing for a second, and then share content. Share the meeting. Oh, but hers
So
were
you have to
not.
do this and then.
Yeah, yep.
But then now I have to.
So your tab is right here, actually.
Yeah, that one. Okay. We can
So
fix
just,
that
yeah,
one.
click on that one.
Yeah.
All right, and then you can just go into your
Yeah.
presentation.
Perfect. Thank you. Good. Oh, is it sure? Yes, sure. Great, thank you all. So my name is Ruben Parra. I'm originally from Cali, Colombia. I'd like to share, some of the barriers that I have faced as I moved from childhood to where I am now, how I overcame those barriers and how I embrace opportunities to advance in my life. But I'd like to start by indicating that I'm driven by the values that have defined my life since I was born, let's say. And also a trait that I have, and that is that I'm a constant learner. I like to learn. I like to inquire. I like to see new things. But then another driving force that I revolve around is service. And anything that I do has an intention, the intention to serve others. Why is that? You will probably see that in a minute when I show you some of the slides. One of the reasons is I have been blessed with so many things that people have done for me that I have no other way to be grateful than to allow others to receive as many, if not more, of the blessings that I have received. And those blessings comes sometimes with opportunities that needs to be unblocked, right? So I guess that defines it. As a learner, I have this, I guess it's a problem or maybe a virtue, because I like to learn everything, and then I have this side that looks for philosophy psychology, literature. I like to write poetry. I like the music, piano, sing. I don't sing well, but I like to sing. That's one side of me. And that side of me made me think that I should be a lawyer. My mom's side of the family is all lawyers. There are more than 10 lawyers in that family. And I went back in history, we go back to the 17 or 1600 lawyers. Oh my goodness. And I like it, I love it. But I also like science. So I said, what do I do here? So I put these two passions before of me and I said, on a scale of 1 to 10, which one do I have a tremendous passion for? Law or arts, 10. Science, 10. Okay, that didn't help. So on a scale of 1 to 10, which one I am remarkably, very comfortable, that is not too much of a challenge for me? Law, 10. No, it's not of a challenge. Okay, science, 9. Okay, then I go for science. It's more difficult. I like to be challenged. Law, don't get me wrong, that doesn't mean I'm an extraordinary lawyer or whatever. It's just easy. I used to have, I don't know if now, a remarkable memory. Like I read something and remember it like this. And law is about learning many these things. So it's okay, science is the deal. So I get to chemistry. I did my bachelor in Colombia in inorganic chemistry, experimental chemistry, homogeneous catalysis. But what do I do here? I love science, philosophy, and everything. So I created and founded in my first semester of the university a student group, which I call the Academy of Science and Philosophy, Francisco José de Caldas. Why Francisco José de Caldas? Because that's our Albert Einstein in Colombia. That's the big name of science. So to honor him, I did that. And this is a little book because one of the, memories, one of the things that we did in this group is to have conferences. We started creating what we call the mini Congress of Chemistry, just to know what the PhD students were doing. So can you give us a talk, that? We organized that. And then all of a sudden it became a national event. When I left the university in 1994, it was a national event. So it's no longer mini Congress. And so why was this good? Because in this group, I have people from economy, from psychology, from literature, come together. It's the Academy of Science and Philosophy, right? So the group grew to be 300 or more members. I was the president of that, founder of that. So what I did is I adapt myself. I like those passions. I don't want to let this go. And I still keep it. And I still write my poetry. I have written 2 books of poetry, right? I think this is one of those books that I wrote a year ago. But also, I learned a technique as I was an undergrad student called Moss-Bauer spectroscopy in a class called Bioinorganic Chemistry. In this class, you need to learn techniques, spectroscopic techniques, to examine, the amount of iron or molybdenum on this kind of things. And there is a technique, Moss-Bauer, very specific for iron, but mostly for iron. So the assignment was to, write an essay to compare different techniques, particularly X-ray diffraction, Moss-Bauer, XAFs, Zanes, NMR, all these things. We did a comparison, but I fell in love with this technique. But then I realized that in terms of equity thing, all the things that are in this field are in English. And I was learning English at that time because I was my final years as an undergrad. I was preparing to come here. So I said, interesting, this is such a great technique, but people who speak Spanish and don't speak English are missing this opportunity. So I put it into myself to write a book. So I said, this is 2-volume book on Moss-Bauer spectroscopy in Spanish. This one by hand, right? We're talking about the 90s. So this is all by hand, right? Nice little spectrum and myself and all this. So one is the theoretical framework. This uses gamma radiation as opposed to UV, this gamma. So I used one book is theory, and the other book is the application. So I do that, doing the spectrum by hand. No iPhone, nothing. By hand. But what I'm trying to get at is find your passion. Once you find your passion, give 100% more to it. You never know what that will take you, right? One of the things that this did for me is that I finished my undergraduate, want to go to PhD, no money, nothing. But then all of a sudden there was an ad in the university that says, the University of Nebraska Lincoln is looking for someone with experience in Mossbauer spectroscopy and exams. Come and do some pre-doctoral work on heterogeneous catalysis to characterize this catalyst. My undergraduate thesis, which is here, this is my undergraduate thesis, is homogeneous catalysis. We use IR, infrared, and UV, and so on. So what? I just wrote a book on this. I'm like, so I applied, I got it. Pre-doctoral, right? It's not a doctoral thing. I was accepted in the PhD program at the University of Florida in Gainesville, but I didn't have the money to go there, so I needed to apply. And so all this process say, oh, you have to wait like move 1 more year. In the meantime, I got this opportunity because I did a good job in Mossbauer spectroscopy. Little did I know that I would open an opportunity for me in the future, and it did. So I came to UNL, I said, well, go there, and then I go to Florida after 1 year. Once in UNL, I did with the professor said, you want to take some courses, PhD courses while you're here? Yes, why not? So I took 3 courses, quantum mechanics, advanced organic chemistry, and NMR and quantum coherence. This is the kind of NMR where you never go to the lab, is everything math. Interesting. So I got A's in all of those at the university approached me, the Department of Chemistry. Because I went to the chemical and engineering department, but this is the chemistry. Say, oh, this is impressive. Where are you coming from? Why don't you stay with us? You know, I'm going to Florida. You need to stay here. And then for Florida, remember, I need to apply for a grant. It's a loan. I have to pay for that. UNL says, no, we pay for you. You don't have to pay. You stay here. So I stayed in Lincoln, and I did my PhD and my postdoctoral work there, and then I came to DePaul in 2001, right? So, but part of this is, what are the barriers? Where are you coming from? Why, how you embrace opportunities, and what are the values that I. So let me give you a little bit of that in the remaining 10 minutes or so. Okay. First of all, growing up in a low-income household, 1 mom, 10 kids, and I was kid number 10. Of course, no way you can do that. It's everybody in the surroundings. I mean, be grateful that you have a high school or a diploma. My mom has 5th grade because in that little town where she was born, the most you can get is 5th grade. It doesn't matter if you have money or not. There is no school other than 5th grade. One of my uncles, like I said, we are family of poets and writers, wrote the history of that little town. And this is the book for it. And here is the, I don't know if you can see that, but I don't know. But here's the history of the entire family and the little town. So no way my mom could do more than 5th grade. Because it's a big city, Cali now, millions of people versus little town. So all she did is try to help us out to grow all this family of 10 kids, all of them very successful, thank goodness. But like I said today, despite of this, right, I'm able to be here, and I like to, tell you a little more about it. So this is Cali here, from here to all the way Lincoln, Nebraska, somewhere here, and then Chicago now, and I stay here, and I hope I stay for a long time, right? But this is my family, part of it. This is my mom, my sisters, but remember we have three brothers and 2 sisters who are not in this particular picture, but I just picked this one. But one feature that you see in this picture that I think aligns with me, we are always happy. We are always smiling. That's still I believe today. So early defining moments in life. When I was 3 years old, 3.5 years old, I went missing for 2002. That's true. And then, what are the takeaways for that? Well, that in itself is a story, right? Which we don't have to go into that, but the takeaways, that's the thing that I want to say. Maybe just leave it like that, right? I vividly remember this, not all the details, but I do remember the kindness, the people who helped me with those times. I learned to appreciate my mom, and look at that. If I miss a kid for 1 hour, that would be tough. 2 days, 2 nights. But I learned that it doesn't matter how difficult things are or get, there's always something that will come out. If you know how to look for it. So I learned to see the good in everyone and circumstance. That's why I'm happy. This is the actual neighborhood where I was born. It's called Barrio Obrero. Obrero means worker. So this is the neighborhood of low-income, hard-working people. This could be me. I don't know. Maybe it's me, but it could have been me. That's how it was. You play in the street, you play soccer. I don't know if this guy has it, but you tend not to use your shoes. So the shoes are for the school or something. You play without. This is the real neighborhood where I was born and raised. But then at 7 years old, my mom found this place called Institution San Jose, St. Joseph Institution. The name San Jose comes from the fact that it's from St. Joseph, the adopted parent of Jesus. So this institution is intended to help people that are missing one part. Okay, they give me all this support, health, academic, throughout all for my life. And they even pay for my English training before coming here, and the GRE training and the TOEFL training, all these things that you have to do to go into PhD, which I didn't know even existed. To me, bachelor, that's the deal. Or even high school, that's the deal. Because when I was in high school, not college. When I was in college, then this guy, PhD Ruben, PhD, what is that? And so on. So we got it. So I'm very grateful. And well, this is what I got there in the first year. I don't know if you recognize me, but I will tell you this is me. I was there. And that is my friends in the institutions will say when we first came there, all of them, or most of them, it's remarkably successful. It's Miami now. He is the current director of the institution now. It still exists after 65, 66 years. And this is the neighborhood where that institution was located, the physical location of the institution. So the founder thought very cleverly that you don't want to have this kind of institutional places in the very low income neighborhoods. You want to take them to more upscale neighborhoods. Right? That was her thinking. They have a psychologist in place who helped us throughout the year. So when I graduated from high school, I knew my history, psychologically speaking, since I was 7 until 15. That helps. Anyway, so this is a recent picture. So it's still going. This is the new generation of people that hopefully in 20 years or 30 years, one of them will be standing like I am now, telling others their stories. But I did get my high school diploma. Here is my mom, very happy. These are the kids that I showed you before were there. They also got a high school diploma. This is my sister. My professors of mathematics and statistics in high school. So they went, and that's the physical location of the place. Of course, in Colombia, you have to do military service. So I went to the Army after that for 1 year, which in itself defines many of the traits and characteristics that I have today. You go there, and even though I was in an institution for so many years where you have your bed, you have to make the bed, you have to do, it was internal there. To go to the army is quite a different experience. Very difficult for me. I couldn't, it was hard, right? But one of the things that I learned is, like they used to say, the lieutenant or the captain used to say, there are not impossible tasks. What there are incompetent soldiers. That's what they say. Okay, but this is how it happens. Ruben, Parra, they don't say your first name, they say last name, Parra. So you see that GPS is broken. I need it fixed by noon. I don't know how to fix that. That's not my problem. It should be fixed by noon. Oh my God. So I went around and I find someone who could help it fix it. And then I bought a Coke or soda, and then I paid the guy with that. But it was fixed. The problem was fixed. So that's one of the things that defines me. Now, I will talk about three very fundamental barriers, one or two. One is health. I suffer and still suffer from severe migraine attacks. That's a fact from middle, but especially when I came to college, becomes more apparent. The problem with that is chemistry makes it worse because I have to go to the lab and it's not that, so it was very difficult for me through college to do that. But I managed and I graduated and I did it. How I adapted? Well, I said, oh, well, I should have been a lawyer, not a how did I do? But then I discovered that there is something called theoretical chemistry and computational chemistry. Oh, okay, that I got. Well, I don't have to be in the lab at all. So I transitioned into that. So what's the lesson to be learned? Well, okay. Be flexible, adjust your past. That doesn't mean you give up. You're just moving forward in a new way. So that's one. I did graduated despite of my migraine attacks and so on. I did. My mom and the founder of the institution, San Jose. The other one is financial constraints. That's always there for us, low income people. But no clear way. This is amazing. I said, I'm going to do my PhD in the US. And my classmates said, oh, do you have the money? No. So how are you going to pay it? I have no idea. But I see myself as a professor in the US. I go with what I see, not what I do see. I do see the money, then I don't go with that. It will happen somehow. And it did happen. How did it happen? Well, I applied for a scholarship. I got a Colombian government scholarship alone, really. And that is, you have to pay for it, but they give me the 1 year for the pre-doctoral training. I did have to pay for that one, but during that year, because of my good work in that university, I secured the financial support for that program. And then I talked to my brother and said, can you give me 5 years to pay you? I think it was like $30,000 something. And I paid it, and so it was overcome. But if you think like, no, but I mean, if you think, even now, if I think, okay, rent, food, this, and I got job offers in Colombia as a chemist. It's not like, don't get me wrong, I could have been working. No, it will happen, and it did happen. The thing is, just being excellent in what you do, open doors that you don't imagine they are there. So it doesn't matter what you're doing at some particular time, just do your best there. And if it happens to be one of those passions that you have, then even better. But even if it is not your passion, do your best. Because that time that you spend in that task will not come back. So even if it is just for respect to the time, do your best. Now, this is not, now I'm here in the US. What are the challenges now? Well, this self-doubt, like, okay, I learn English, but in Colombia, you go to Lincoln, Nebraska. And I say to the guy in the library, thank you. And I say, you bet. You're supposed to say, you welcome. Thank you, you're welcome. You bet we pronounce welcome so fast. I talk to the guy, no, here in Lincoln, in Midwest, we say, you bet means you welcome. Okay, good check. I went to the Burger King to order the I go, yeah. I made the order and then the guy, I don't understand what he was saying. Then later I understand, stay here or to go. And then it's funny because I said, yes, that's fine. No, stay here to go. But yes, that's fine. So that was a struggle. Even though I knew English, but no, I didn't. I had to come here to do it. And then the new academic system is different from Colombia. In Colombia, there is no such thing back in those days. Syllabus. Or like you ask for, oh, can I do this exam next time? No way. When the professor said, that's it. And other things. So, and so I came back, call my mom and say, how do you do when, you have to do your exam? My mom had no idea about it. Okay, so what happens outside your comfort zone? So identify that, be aware of it. It will happen. And here it is. I came to this pre-doctoral work and my lab there, with one mentor there. But again, because of my power, my exam, but now I'm doing heterogeneous catalysis. And in chemical engineering, So when I had to move to psychology, it's okay. I have to move, I've been around in many places, different fields. It's about, well, what I'm doing, I am passionate about it. And if the impact of my work will benefit others, that's kind of my driving thing. And this is Brookhaven National Laboratory, right, DNL, from Colombia. Didn't know how to drive a car. And the professor said, the advisor said, okay, Ruben, here are the tickets, here's the rental car, go, you go to New York, and what to do, Brookhaven? I do know how to drive a car. Okay, you have a week. Okay, I did the training and I passed the exam in 1 week, and then I went to Brookhaven. And not only that, Brookhaven, he's not with me. We talk about on the board that you do this and you do that, and you go to Brookhaven. This is all this humongous, race that are happening. You give a space. You have to work almost 24 hours there to make the time because it's very expensive to go there. So I did it. And okay. So, okay, pretty much that's it. And I'm gonna focus more on this is where I came. I do go to conferences, of course, but lastly, I just wanna end up, I have been recognized with Excellence in Teaching and Research Award, but I guess my final thought and maybe the key takeaways, and that will probably conclude talk. But just don't let barriers stop you. Be flexible in your goals. Hard work pay off in ways you can't predict, and give your best in this according. So that's it. So, thank you. Very quickly.
So we now open it up to questions for either of our guest speakers, so people might want to have specific questions, and also make sure you grab more food, feel free to do that. Yeah.
Maybe one of your rice left back there, like somebody should.
Yep. Tons of food, so please. I'm just gonna put. Okay. Gonna put the chat up in case people have questions on chat. Anyone have questions for our two lovely speakers?
There are Zoom people.
How many of their siblings became lawyers?
No, one became a pharmaceutical chemist, and two nieces become lawyers, but still in the family.
I think both of you really talked about passing on the kindness that you got and support and the like mentorship that brought you into your roles. What like, can you be a little, can you elaborate on like how you pass that forward and like onto your students today?
Let's see. So, I mean, I think a lot of this is like baked into things that I and probably Ruben also does like just every day, like baked into the sauce. So not directly something that like, I guess something that helped me reflect and reach this place of like several years ago, a mathematician by the name of Francis Stu wrote a blog post called The Lesson of Grace in Teaching. It was sort of the foundation that turned into his book for math and human flourishing. And just, he wrote a lot about the grace that was extended to him as a student and just like people seeing him as a human being and like allowing for like creating space for his humanness in his sort of professional and academic endeavors. And I think that is something that I try to do when I'm working with my students. Like, you're all people with complicated lives. And so I try, or I aspire to, whenever I'm working with students, to acknowledge that. And that, like, if you're like not doing work for a class or you're behind or something, like making it clear that there's no judgment on you as a person. It's like, yeah, like you didn't do the thing, you're behind, whatever, but like, okay, that's like a fact. Like, but that doesn't reflect on you as a person. And that's something that I try to make a point to do. I also try to keep an eye out for students who like are clearly like doing well, or they've got the potential, but maybe they don't see it in themselves, or they sort of talk. You know, like you can sort of see that like students maybe thinking that something isn't for them or that they're not enough, but and like giving nudges, or sometimes explicitly saying like, you know, you're like, hey, like I see the work you're doing. You're enough, you belong here. And sort of trying to be explicit sometimes in those lessons.
Yeah, I also intentionally have seen students who are doing, say, C minus in degree, in the average score degree, right? When they want to go to medical school or law. I remember vividly one who wanted to be a lawyer. She was getting a C minus in chemistry class and so on. So I took it upon myself to mentor the student to say that there are ways in which you can demonstrate your potential beyond the scores, beyond these grades. And it took a couple of years or so, but the student finally entered law school and graduated. But it took that kind of mentorship to say, you know, it's possible, even if this particular component is not aligning well. But there are many other things that you can do to shine. And then that's one, and that's one example, but many like that. Right? Yes.
What advice do you guys have for students who want to like go into academia and become professors?
Yeah, okay, yeah. Well, first of all, like my guiding principles, do you have the passion for it? What's the driving force? Why are you doing that? Ask that question and reflect on the answer you provide very carefully. Take the time to reflect on that answer because this is a life-defining moment. Once you become a professor, hopefully you stay there for a very long time, as opposed to being very frustrated in that decision, because that frustration will be translated to the students that you will be serving later on. So it is a tremendously important decision that involves not only you, but those who will be impacted by that decision. So I would say just, if it is your passion, go for it. If not, think about it more carefully.
I guess tying into Ruben's talk, I would say, like, everything that you do your best to do it exceptionally well, or like do to the best of your ability, right? So even if it's like something that doesn't feel that important, that isn't so closely related to your passion, like give it your all every time, all the time. And so another piece of advice would be, there are lots of different pathways to get to like the front of this room, right? So like my pathway, you know, is sort of direct. Like I did undergrad and then I went straight to grad school, with like lots of little helping bridges along the way. But there are different ways, right? Some people will work in industry for a few years before going to graduate school, or maybe they'll do a post-grad program or something before going to a graduate program. So there's not just one right way, and if you stumble, like you can get back on that course. And so the thing is, like, right, there are all these pathways, but you don't know what they are as a student. And so, like, you know, find mentors who are going to help support you and guide you. If you can, like, talk to as many people as possible to hear, like, you know, so if you want to become a chemist, like, just talk to all the chemists you know, and sort of just to get a sense of the diversity of paths that might bring you here. And they might know, like, oh, I know someone who's running a pre-doctoral program for students to come for a year. Yeah.
Well, we're at time, so thank you all for coming. It was great, you know,